Hi, I'm Lindsay, and today I unfortunately have to talk about Jujutsu Kaisen Chapter 259. Just such a good time. Such a good time I'm having in this story right now. The chapter I feared has come, and I am not the same since it came out. I have been very upset. Yeah, I've just been really sad. In chapter 258, Sukuna was able to use his domain again, and he also, at the end of the chapter, started to use his flames, which was Furnace Open. Very concerning for the characters here, and guess who gets caught in the fire? My favorite character in the ever. I have to talk about it. So what I have to say first is I'm going to get through this chapter review. I'm doing just one chapter because it's an ode to Choso. This whole chapter is my personal ode to my favorite character. And so it's going to be about, I wanted it to focus on him. So just chapter 259 in this video. Yeah. And I'm going to get through this chapter as straight face as possible, but I already recorded this, but stick around. If you love Choso like I love Choso, or close to I love Choso, and you're okay with seeing me get emotional, like I cried, like makeup on my face. It was not the best look in the world for me. But once this chapter review is over, the next part of the video will be me just talking about my love for Choso and why I love him, when the love for Choso started, and why I just think he's such a beautiful character. So I wanted to dedicate it to him. It's a good 10 minutes or so of me talking about Choso, so if you want to watch that, you should. I will timestamp everything. If you can't handle me being emotional, if you think it's stupid that I cry over a fictional character, that half of the video is not for you. The second half of the video, you can watch the chapter review and be done. I can't promise I won't tear up during the chapter review, but you can just watch that and be done. You don't need to watch me crying. It's fine. Just skip it. But if you care about Choso, you don't care that I cry, you don't care that I get emotional, definitely watch it. It was just sad. When the leaks came out, I cried like all night, and it really affected me. This is genuinely one of the saddest chapters in JJK, and for me, so much of what was good about this chapter was totally overshadowed by how depressing this chapter is. So okay, let's get into it. I'm gonna try my best to keep it together here, but yeah, let's get into the chapter review. Let's talk about chapter 259. So we start this chapter off with the month of training flashback here with Choso, Yuji, and Kamo, the blood manipulation family over here, and they're asking Choso what the trick is to convergence, and we learn that Yuji is going to be doing his switch training with Kusakabe, who we knew, but also he's going to be doing it with Yuta. So I was very curious about who that second person was, and it was Yuta. So he had to learn blood manipulation the hard way, and he only has a month. So he's like, give me every piece of advice you have. And Choso, oh my god, my beautiful, perfect, gorgeous, perfect, beautiful, everything. I've said that twice. It doesn't matter. My perfect boy. He says convergence, it's kind of like this and then like that and like blah, blah, blah. And it's giving Shoko trying to describe RCT to Gojo and Geto. It's the exact same thing. Yuji is like, seriously? Come on. And Kamo is there to actually explain things. He says, think of bathing in hot water. You can feel the heat encompassing your entire body. In that same way, you can expand your blood vessels, creating a vague outline of your body. That's the basic foundation of blood manipulation. And of course, Yuji being himself is like, oh, like when you piss yourself? And Camo's just like, you know what, Yuji, whatever. Whatever works for you is fine. Kamo says that convergence is a technique that compresses your blood, meaning we can use a sponge or paper, anything that can be crumpled in your hand easily to help with imaging. It's a similar feeling to how cans or clay work as well. If it's taking up space and you squish it and compress it, it's the same thing. It's just like compressed. And then Kamo says, Choso, this is what it means to actually like teach someone something. My bad, it was actually Yuji sassing Choso, not Kamo sassing him. Yuji was the one being like, this is what it means to teach someone. So, oops, read that wrong. Choso, just being adorable, says, Supernova, ask me about Supernova. But like Yuji's not advanced enough in blood manipulation to be learning stuff like that. And Camo says, for starters, we don't have time to make blood manipulation a potent weapon for Itadori. It'll be better for him to get the basics of stitching and stopping blood down. And Choso's all grumpy because he really does want to teach Yuji. He really does, but he doesn't know how to explain it. Like he says it later, but he runs on instinct. So then we get back to the fight, and there's stupid Sukuna, who I hate now. He's using his flames, and it says that Ryomen Sukuna can only open the furnace doors after preparing his ingredients cleave and dismantle. The chef is in the kitchen, like he's cooking. I wish he wouldn't, but he is. Outside of his domain, furnace cannot be used on multiple targets. This binding vow enabled Sukuna to not only reduce all within the malevolent shrine's range to dust, but ensure that all the resulting particles were matted in the explosive curse energy akin to furnace. His battle IQ is so impressive, though. So despite their absurd firepower, the flames within the furnace lack both speed and range. To amend this, Sukuna undertook another binding vow. He has taken on so many, it's almost like concerning how many he's taking on. It's like, is that okay? Like, it's interesting. He's taken on so many binding vows at this point. And on top of this, Sukuna deftly altered the functionality of the domain to one that only allowed entry to living beings, maintaining the shrine's output whilst sealing it airtight. He is just making sure everyone's caught in the crosshairs. Like, he is making sure that this hits people and it does damage to them. And then we get this panel of Uraume with her Gojo. She's going through her Gojo I'd win phase, saying this is our victory. And we get to see Hikari and Yuji, and we see the flames starting, just a little bit of the flame arrow there. And then the next panel is just absolute total destruction, which, not gonna lie, the anime will be incredible. It'll look great, although that episode is gonna actually make me have a mental breakdown. So thermobaric explosives and the transformed particle matter danced, raining down on every inch of the domain. Oh my god, the heat of furnace spread the detonations immediately, birthing scalding, instantly compressing and decompressing shockwaves, ensuring the death of all living beings within the domain. Like, what the fuck? It's horrible. It's so, like, it sounds torturous. It sounds painful and just, and this is what he did back with Maharaga and Shibuya, and how he was able to obliterate Maharaga like that. And it says, an attack capable of instantaneously obliterating Maharaga back in Shibuya. This is Sukuna's ultimate move, which honestly, that's good to hear. It's his ultimate move. We now know his ultimate move, as far as, that's what narrator says. Don't know how reliable they are, but so far so good. So that is a good thing, that the fact that a lot of people lived through this attack. Thank you, Choso. But anyways, thank you, Choso, for saving Yuji specifically. Not everyone else, just Yuji. I'm just so focused on Choso. I'm sorry. So, on top of constantly altering the necessary conditions for barrier techniques, the repeated use of binding vows to alter his effective range meant that during his battle with Gojo, the furnace remained cooled, as Sukuna didn't have the freedom to unseal its flames, so he was not able to use that move against Gojo. And then we see Yuji and Choso together. I'm not gonna cry, I'm gonna try not cry. And Choso just says, I'm probably gonna cry. So Choso has contained Yuji in like a shield of blood, and to protect him. And Choso is, he's given up his life. Yuji asks him what he's doing, and we just see, basically we're gonna be watching Choso slowly burning alive and dying. So that's cool. But he is protecting Yuji, and we see that he is slowly burning and looking at Yuji, and Yuji is just like, you can't do this. Oh my god. And Choso says, I'm sorry I was useless during training. Your big brother tends to do things instinctively, which I said earlier in the chapter review that he tends to do things instinctively, so it's hard for him to explain how to do blood manipulation. Sorry if I'm crying while I'm just casually crying while doing the chapter review. And Yuji yells for Choso. And you see, like, Choso's little blood barrier he has there just being swarmed by Sukuna's attack. Very impressive that Choso was able to do this and withstand it, especially since we learned they are at, like, the epicenter, like, they are in the middle of the attack. And Yuji says instinctively, you really hit the nail on the head. And then we see them at the table that from Choso's little fake memory flashback that he has. And now it's just him and Yuji. No food either. And Choso says that, Yuji, you got a grasp on RCT much faster than I did. And Yuji, who's been told this, that it's not thanks to him, it's just Sukuna. But Choso, the beautiful character he is like, give yourself some credit. Don't be so modest. It's only natural for a little brother to surpass his big brother. And Yuji says that isn't any reason for you to leave. I literally cannot talk about this chapter. Choso, in this panel of him, is so beautiful. He's so hot. Oh my god. He says that he needs to apologize to Tsukumo too, which also makes me sad. But also, I think just in the afterlife, him and Yuki are going to be happy together. They're going to be hanging out with Eso and Kechizu. Everyone's going to be fine. They're all going to be fine in the afterlife together. Sure. But I appreciate that he brings up Yuki. I really do. I really love that he still thinks about her. So he says, Yuji, I'm sorry I'm leaving you on your own again, which is something he was really worried about doing, that he talked to Yuki about, that if he died that Yuji would be alone again. But Yuji says but that's what you're worried about? You were there for me when I needed someone the most, and that's more than enough. So it kind of takes what Choso is saying and being like, Choso needs to be there for Yuji for as long as possible, to be there for him. But Yuji's saying that you don't need to be here forever. You were just there when I needed someone the most. And that, like, don't give yourself some credit. You were the one that was there for me when I needed someone. You don't have to be hard on yourself about it. That's what was valuable about you. And it surprises Choso, kind of, and he says, is that so? And then we see Eso and Kechizu and Choso and their little embryo phase there, where you can see them calling out to Choso, saying, are you there, big brother? I'm so cold. And Choso says, I'm here. It's okay. Let's talk. As long as we're talking, we can forget about the cold. What the fuck, KK? Why does he have to make, like, the characters he have such tragic stories? Anyways. And then we see this beautiful panel of Choso running with Yuji right behind him, saying that our 150 years were all but a few days to Yuji. And we cut back to the fight, and he is saying, thank you, Yuji. And he's like, he's burnt at this point. Like, there's no coming back from this. And he says, thank you, Yuji. Thank you for being my little brother. And Yuji says, thank you, big brother. And, Choso's blood barrier starts to break, but, Yuji got to live through that insane attack by Sukuna. The blood barrier starts to break, and Choso is gone. He is gone. And Yuji is alone right now, and he's saying, is anyone there? Like, is anyone left there? And he feels so alone. Like, what happened to me? What happened to Monkey? Like, what happened to everyone? He feels alone. The narrator says, Itadori Yuji always told himself that he was nothing more but a cog in a machine, that he'd fulfill his role as needed. He should have been able to repay his brother who gave his life protecting him. Yet as his eyes fell upon scorched earth, cooled stale air, and settled dust, he found his conviction shaken to its roots. And what happens in this story when this happens to Yuji? We should have known. We see Sukuna getting ready to take on Yuji, and Yuji yells Sukuna, like, they're face to face almost, this intense moment. But of course, who else would show up when Yuji also needs someone, and that would be Todo, the other brother who's not actually a brother. Imagine if we learned that Todo was actually a brother, and we have not seen Todo forever, for years and years. It feels, I don't know if it's years and years, for years. We haven't seen Todo for a long time. And he's back. He has his arm wrapped. And yeah, Todo is back in action, but the chapter isn't over yet, which now that Choso's gone, I might be able to get it together a bit. So Yuji sees Todo, and we get a flashback here with a conversation between Mei and Todo, and she says, "I see, Mr. Todo. Using my crows and your technique, we can evacuate people from within Sukuna's domain." Oh yeah, Ino. I forgot about Ino. So being caught in that domain means instant death. I can't guarantee it'll save lives, but it's going to be worth trying. Naturally, you'll be situated outside the domain, so it'll require you extending the effective range of Boogie Boogie by quite a bit. So he can still kind of use Boogie Boogie. He can still use it. You'll likely have over 4 targets to manage too. Do you think you and that arm of yours is really up to the task? And Todo says that he can't be certain, but he can still feel his technique inside him. The throbbing beat, the pulse of Boogie Woogie. It is not dead. He says that we can't let Yuji know about this plan. Ask Mei if she knows why. She says their resonance. And he says, indeed. So it says Itadori Yuji and Ryomen Sukuna were 2 souls inhabiting one body. Although severed, their connection runs thick. So even though that they're not like as one now, that they already have that connection there, and so might not happen where you know, if they told Yuji about Todo, it might be fine, like, but they don't want to even take that chance because Todo is too reliable right now, and they need that surprise attack kind of. I hear that the Yasuhachi Bridge mission was triggered by Itadori's swallowed finger resonating with one in the wild. Yeah, that's a callback to like the first season sort of with Megami's sister, and that's the first time they met. That's when they met Eso and Kechizu, that whole arc there. So yeah, there is a lot of connection here with Sukuna and what Yuji does and the fingers and all that. Mei saying that you're suggesting that Itadori may unconsciously reveal the plan's details to Sukuna, correct? And Todo is like, yeah, we'll do the same with the details behind Yuta's plan, inform him to enact it only moments before, and that they can't let Yuji know about any of this. And Mei says, locked and shut, my mouth is as tight as my purse strings. Shut up, Mei. I'm done. I don't even want to talk about it right now. So the narrator says his plan with Mei, the time spent fine-tuning his technique alongside Yuta, Todo himself being unable to verify the safety of his allies, the fact that he couldn't swap Itadori or Choso, because, you know, he said his plan was perfect, who were caught at the epicenter of Sukuna's domain. There simply wasn't enough time to tell Yuji all of this. Why, you ask? And, you know, they keep it simple. We're back at the fight. They keep it simple. Todo just apologizes and says, however, they got to take care of the situation. But he says, however, everyone else is most likely fine. And this is all like so similar to Shibuya with because in this situation Choso is Nobara, and how Nobara like affected Mahito, and now that it's Todo and Yuji lived because of Choso has also done his damage on Sukuna, because if they win here, that is a huge part thanks to Choso sacrificing himself for Yuji. And back in Shibuya, when Yuji was worried about Nobara, Nita was like, oh, she's probably fine. Like, her heart's not beating, but she might be fine. There's a chance she might be fine. So Toto's doing the same thing right now to hype Yuji up, you know? So we don't know about the state of everyone, but honestly, I feel like they're probably okay. So Yuji takes that most likely fine. He takes it in stride, and he's like, okay, I believe him. That's all I can do right now, because... And this is the satisfying moment for me here, because after using his domain, Sukuna has entered a state in which it is painstakingly difficult to use his curse technique. And we see the two approach Sukuna, who is still smiling, by the way. And that is pretty much it. That is the end of the chapter. We got the editor's note saying brotherly bonds linked on their path to victory. So... like, the first half of this chapter is a lot of pain, and the second half of this chapter, you know, it's exciting, and it does feel kind of like it's going to be ending soon. I really don't know. I really wanted to get through this without crying, but this was like, for me, Toto was a little overshadowed by everything going on with Choso, because Choso was so beloved and we had so much time with him. And it's too bad that the two didn't get to meet. I really wanted them to meet, and, you know, they have so much in common with their bond with Yuki and then their bond with Yuji. So it's like, all I want is a spin-off series of Yuji, Toto, Yuki, and Choso hanging out. That's all I want, because I think it would be great. But yeah, this chapter was brutal. I want to be done talking about it. I really do. So yeah, I'm gonna like leave it to the second half of this video now, where I just talk about how much I love Choso, and prepare for tears in that one too. I really tried here to hold it back, but it was difficult. But yeah, prepare for tears. If you love Choso, definitely watch it. But yes, I'm gonna leave it to me now to talk about Choso. Here we go. So I decided for this part of the video that it would probably be best if I talked in front of the Choso shrine, and I've had almost a week to sit on this, and it's still hard to even talk about. It's just, Choso was my favorite character, which is painfully obvious. I've said it many times on my channel. I've loved him for years, and he is my ultimate comfort character. My total ultimate comfort character. Why it had to be from Jujutsu Kaisen. I don't know why I would put myself through such pain, but I did. And I said in my last chapter review that I felt like Choso at this point, he was gonna live through the story, and then literally the next chapter he was dead, and it was brutal and it was horrible. I had a feeling afterwards that something was going to happen, and I was worried that something was going to happen, but it was just hard. It was hard to read. It's still hard to read, and I'm trying to get through the chapter review without like letting it bother me too much, but just losing him in this story, it makes me sad. But yeah, I love Choso for years. Choso, for me, like, when I first met him, I just, like, immediately fell in love with his design. He has such a good character design, like, honestly, it's so great. And I just saw myself, like, drawing him all the time. Like, it was so much fun. I enjoyed his presence, and I just fell in love with his character eventually as well. You know, Choso, he seemed like a bad person, a bad guy, whatever, but Choso was, like, brought into this world in such a weird way and kind of forced to pick sides, and he chose what he felt was best for his brothers, and, you know, things didn't work out for him. Things didn't work out for Eso and Kechizu, and the thing he thought was best would be to avenge them, and that was what was always most important to Choso, was his family, and he cared so much about them. And when he learned that Yuji was his brother, he switched sides immediately. You know, his whole trajectory changed in the story, and everything about him, you know, it changed. Choso was no longer working with Kenjaku. Instead, he realized Kenjaku was his piece of shit dad who sucked and manipulated him, and manipulated his mother and everything too. So Choso switched sides, and, you know, for the majority that we've known Choso as a character, has been overly maybe protective of Yuji, and always hyping Yuji up, and taking good care of him. Like, he always was there for him. So it's not surprising to me that Choso would go out in a way like this. It's not surprising at all. But I just thought at this point he wasn't gonna die. I'm gonna cry through this whole thing. I'm just letting you know, because I've been, like, repressing my feelings. Yeah, I was worried about, I'm just telling you my experience with Choso, and my feelings towards Choso, and how his character developed through the story. So once the culling game started and he stayed behind with Yuki, I was worried about him. I didn't know how I felt about Yuki at that point. I didn't really trust her, to be honest. But then when I saw that he was alive and he was okay, and not only that, he developed a relationship with Yuki. He developed this kind of like friendship thing with her, which, I shipped them, but whatever. The thing is, like, Choso was not in the world, living in the world very long, but he was so good at, like, making like meaningful relationships with people, and it was something like he was just good at it, and it showed through his brothers as well, but it also showed through Yuki, who he in chapter 259 says he needs to apologize to as well. Like, Choso has always had a conscience. Choso has always felt guilt, and that shows as well when he talks to Yuki about, and I was so glad that this was brought up because it was something I was worried about, that what he did in Shibuya, because, you know, the fight against Gojo, he kind of got innocent civilians mixed in there, and I was kind of concerned that, like, can Choso ever really be with Yuji and all of them? But the amount of guilt he felt and that we saw him expressing to Yuki was so important. I'm so glad they had that scene of his crying scene on the date with Yuki, because he felt so horrible about what he's done, but he always thought that he was doing the best thing he could for his brothers. And that's another reason Choso is like so tragic, is that like he's made mistakes, but he was just trying to do what was best for his family and trying to find Yuji at the time to get revenge for them. He was always just trying to do what he thought was best for his family, and his fight against Kenjaku was like, you know, it was like a way to make it up all the things that he's done or the things that he's done wrong. It's like a way to change, you know, finally make that switch, make that change. Besides helping Yuji and everything, he wants to take revenge on the person who actually was pretty horrible. I mean, Yuji did kill his brothers, but like the situation was either they are gonna die or they're gonna die, or I mean, I guess maybe they could have just separated, but that's not gonna happen. But yeah, so him in his fight versus Kenjaku, and through his whole like relationship with Yuki and expressing how he really felt about everything, how he doesn't want to leave Yuji alone. Oh my god, it hurts so much now. So yeah, and I really thought that by this point he'd be okay. When everything with Sukuna started, Choso just was interested in helping Yuji develop, you know, helping him develop his strength and doing everything, not that he was a great teacher, but doing everything he can to protect Yuji. It was always about protecting him. It was never about himself. It's another reason why Choso is such a beautiful character, is he always put other people before him and was always ready. He was always ready to lose his life. It sucks that he didn't get to stick around for very long. In my head, he's in the afterlife with Yuki and his brothers, just having a good time. That's what I want. You know, Choso's done enough now at this point to, and I don't know if it's make reprimands for things he's done, but he's done enough at this point to, I don't know, be happy in the afterlife with Yuki. That's all I want. And that was just such a brutal way for my favorite character, who I have a tattoo of, if you don't know. Yep, I have a tattoo of Choso. Like, I'm dedicated. I'm a dedicated fan. Here I am doing, like, it feels like a YouTube apology video. Or a YouTuber apology video. That's what it feels like I'm doing right now. But I'm literally just talking about a fictional character dying that, like, broke my heart completely and shattered it. Literally, I was up all night when the leaks came out, just crying and crying, and the whole next day, I just wanted to cry and cry. It was... and it sucks, but yeah, that's just how it goes. I just want to talk about how lovely of a character Choso is, how beautiful of a character Choso is, and if you're watching this and you're like, I'm not sure, like, Choso was okay, I just hope, you know, I've heard from people saying that they're not even like that obsessed with Choso as a character, but that moment, like, really got to them, and I don't blame them. I mean, he died in one of the worst ways humanly possible. So that's just a really tough thing to read, to look at, to talk about. It is tough, and I'm gonna miss talking about him in the chapter reviews. And although JJK is coming to an end, it still sucks because I always look forward to the little panels of Choso. Like, I don't need much, just the little things about him, because he has such a cute, like, quirkiness to him that I really love, and it was so enjoyable to see him always thinking about Yuji. But yes, I should probably stop talking about it because I'm gonna never stop crying. I'm gonna miss seeing him in the manga, like I really am. Luckily, the anime is doing such a good job with him. They did such a good job in the second season, and they even added scenes that I wasn't expecting. So I'm looking forward to seeing him in the anime as well. And I really hope Gege still does like little drawings of Choso. I mean, he killed Gojo, and now we're getting to see Gojo more than we had in a long ass time. So besides his fight against Sukuna, obviously, you know, you never know. I mean, maybe Choso isn't as important of a character as Gojo. But still, yeah, there's a possibility. There's a possibility that we get to see him and in flashbacks, or if Gege does drawings or something, there's still that possibility. So I'm not totally lost on hope. But yeah, this is going to be at the end of my chapter review, so I'll just sign off now. Thank you for watching. I'm sorry if it's super cringy that I cried over my favorite character that is fictional. I know I sound crazy. I know I am. I've accepted it. It's just part of me. But yeah, not last time we see the Choso Shrine too. I mean, it's going to be in the next season as well. So yeah, yeah. If you're watching this right now, just let me know. Let me know what you think about this chapter and what you thought about Choso and how you feel about Choso now, especially. And yes, thank you for watching. Sorry, I'm a bawling mess, and if it makes you uncomfortable, I apologize. But yeah, thank you for watching, and have a good day. Have a good day. Okay, bye.